everybody, it is Dean Z, and I'm here for a file reading episode. I haven't done one of these in a while. I hope I remember how to do them. I think I was staying away from doing them because I was reading so many actual files that needed decisions that I couldn't quite bear to add one on that I didn't have to already be reading. But now I am at the time of the season where most of the files have been read and the pressure is a little lighter that way, so we're back with file reading. I will also tell you that I have admissions cat on my lap, so we'll see how long he stays there if he starts causing trouble. Let us hope not. Okay, let's begin by looking at the resume, which is always my favorite part to begin. This candidate, two things leap out at me right away. First of all, she went to Smith College, which is a women's college in Massachusetts. It's an excellent liberal arts institution. So I know she had a very solid undergrad educational experience, but I also know it is a women's college. And I really, among the sort of institutions that I think are extra special, there are not many of them in not many candidates coming from these kinds of institutions. So don't feel like, oh no, Dean Zierfoss only likes to admit people from women's colleges, because I could not fill a class that way, so don't worry about that. But I love to see people who went to women's colleges. I also love to see HBCUs. I think it is really interesting when people take themselves out of the, go into a particular educational environment that is focused on one particular aspect of society. So it makes you step back and really think about how we are socialized on issues of race, if you're in HBCU, or on issues of gender, if you're at a women's college. Not that you can't do that in other places, but it's a really special kind of environment. And I am biased. I went to a women's college. I felt like it was excellent preparation for a career that is, was certainly very male dominated when I went to law school, and remains, well, much less so, but remains male dominated today. So I thought it was a wonderful strengthening experience. So I like to see that. But I also see the other thing that jumps out at me is that she puts very prominently at the top what her cumulative GPA is. It's not great. It's 3.0. Not terrible, God knows, but not something you maybe are wanting to put prominently out there as advertising. Now, it's tricky because you don't want to, obviously I'm going to see your GPA. It's on your law school report. You don't want to pretend that it doesn't exist. But when you are putting your application materials together, you want to, kind of highlight the positives, and you don't want to attempt to hide the negatives, but you wouldn't want to shine a spotlight on them. And because I see the GPA information elsewhere, I would personally not make this choice about putting it so prominently at the top of her resume. And I also see here that she majored in poli-sci, which is interesting. She wrote a thesis, which I always like to see because theses are hard and most people don't do them. And so I think that is like a special added something. And it was on this topic of abortion access in Mississippi. So interesting. She also did study abroad in Germany. She moves next to her work experience. Now, sometimes people will tell you on a resume, spoiler alert, she has a lot of work experience. We'll get to that in a second. Sometimes people will tell you if you're more than a couple years out of college, you should start with your work experience and put, your education further down. And I think that makes sense if you're applying for a job, because people are most interested in your work experience when you're applying for a job. But when you're applying for further education, I do think it makes sense to keep your education up there at the top and then go into your work experience. Also, unlike an employer who looks at your resume for like 3 seconds, we're going to be spending a little more time on it. So it's not quite as imperative that you just put the important stuff at the top. We're going to read that whole page and the second page too, if you have one of those. Okay, so interestingly, I see that she is a marketing manager for a company here in Ann Arbor, which is unusual. In general, Ann Arbor is, has a lot of different businesses, but mostly our applicants are not coming from Ann Arbor. And if they are in Ann Arbor, it's because they're in their senior year at the University of Michigan undergrad. So I like to see this. This is someone who already knows Ann Arbor, which is a little bit of a mystery to those of you who have not spent time here. People don't really know what to think of, when they think of Ann Arbor. And so I like that she knows it. So that kind of makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. I note here, I said she's a marketing manager for this company, and she before that was a marketing specialist. Now she has divided up those two titles. They were at the same company, but she's put it down as two separate entries on her resume, which is suboptimal for me to understand that she's been at one company for a total of about 5.5 years. What you really should do, if you want to emphasize that you've been at this company for a while, you've laid down roots, and that you've been there long enough, it suggests that they like you too. That is something that I'm noting. If you've been at a place for a while, you should put the company at the top, and then underneath, break out your positions. Put the company and your years that you've been there, and then later specify what the positions were and how long you held each of them. So I am impressed that she has risen in her career, taken on progressively more important responsibilities, so that now she is a manager, and that she has been there for a long time. She also had one job for about 6 months before that, looks like shortly after graduation, where she was also a marketing associate for another company in the same industry. I'll call it the security industry. And so I like that. That means that someone has, compiled a fair amount of knowledge about a particular area and field, and they will be bringing that knowledge with them to law school. And that will have, that has a role to play in the classroom conversation in ways that I don't necessarily can't anticipate, but it just this is someone with a lot of information to share. So I like that. I also see that she does give me some of her summer jobs when she was at Smith. She was an organizer for NARAL for a summer. She worked for a media company for a summer. And she, interestingly, had a 3-year position working for the Smith campus police as a student administrator. I like that. That's, there's a lot to be criticized about the role of police. And I think it is really useful, though, in that, and that's obviously a debate that has a lot of relevance to law school. I think it is helpful in any debate if you have people from multiple points of view, and someone, I don't know what her point of view would be on the question of, say, defund police, but it's someone who, again, has a lot of background knowledge, which that is useful. She also tells me a little bit about what she did at college, for extracurriculars. She spent, it looks like, a year working for the radio station. She was part of a campus-wide diversity initiative. She was an RA for a year, which I think that is hard work, so kudos to her. And then she volunteered as a tutor in a couple of Boston housing projects. Smith is near Boston. So, yeah, that is all very interesting. So now we are going to her essays. You know what? Actually, let's not go to her essays. Now we will go to her law school report. Let me get to that. Yes. All right. So we've already mentioned that she had a 3.0 at Smith. And in fact, so maybe this is why she chose to put it on her resume. She tells me she had a 3.07. I just rounded it down. But it actually, the way the Law School Admissions Council calculates her GPA, it's actually coming out as a 2.97, so just below 3.0. Now, is there an important difference between 3.07 and 2.97 in terms of her ability to do the work? No, I do not think there is, but there is a marketing difference, and she's a marketing person, so she probably thought, you know, I want to put it in their head that I have above a 3.0 instead of slightly below a 3.0, and so that makes a little more sense now. She took the LSAT also 3 times. Her first score, actually she took it 4 times. She's canceled one. People often ask me, like, what about canceling? It's fine. If you, if you cancel 20 times, I'll start wondering, but one cancel, it's like, I don't even notice it. And you can see that I said she took it 3 times because I thought 3 scores, but I didn't, my eye passed right over that cancel. Her first score was a 153. Her second was a 155, and her last and highest score is a 159. Now, 159 is, our median last year was a 169, so 159 is below our median. But it is not at a level that I'm on red alert, like I don't think this person can do the work. So there's a couple different things that I'm thinking about when I'm looking at an LSAT. One is, do I think it reflects someone who has sort of the academic horsepower and background that they can do the work? Is it a red flag? And do I need to be looking for something to make me feel better about their abilities? And so that's 2 different ways of thinking about it. And then there's also just like, how many people can I admit below my median and still maintain my target median? So the latter is a much smaller question. I've said in other episodes that, roughly, well, I don't know, actually, about 10% of the people I admit have an LSAT and a GPA that is below our median. So this would be one of those people if I choose to admit her. And so my question is, do I want her? Does she have enough about her that makes me think, yeah, I really want her? So right now I like her because she, I liked her undergraduate experience, and notwithstanding the GPA itself, I liked, she had study abroad in Germany. That was nice. I liked a lot her work experience. That's probably the thing that I most like. And I like that she had a variety of volunteer experience and, did a bunch of different stuff. So I'm kind of inclined, and I like that she's been out for a significant amount of time. Like, that's someone who's mature. That's someone who's going to be bringing a sense of, a very clear sense of purpose. She wouldn't be going to law school now. She wouldn't be going from one career to the career of law school unless she put some thought into it and was really ready to be here. So I am inclined in her favor, but I am not insensible to the fact that, the 159 and the 3.0 are below our medians, and that she's taken the LSAT. Well, she took it 4 times. She has 3 scores. The more you take the LSAT, the less valuable the high score is. I look at all those scores. I tend to put most weight on the high score, but if you're taking it over and over again and only going up a little bit, it diminishes the value of the high score. And if you've taken it a ton of times, which I wouldn't say 4 is a ton of times, it's sort of right on the edge. 5 is maybe starting to be a ton of times. But if you're taking it, let's say 5 or more times, like, I'm really dubious about why did you need to take it that many times? What was going on there? So she's not quite there, but I'm noting it. All right, and next we have her LSAT writing samples. I will not go into detail about this video because it's not thrilling, but I will tell you that she did do a good and coherent job, and she has very strong writing skills based on what I can tell from these essays, from, which I don't spend a ton of time reading, but, I did look at these. And she took it seriously, which is one thing I care about. Admissions cat is not enjoying me moving these papers. I keep hitting his ear and it's flicking. Anyway. All right. So here is her transcript from Smith. Now, I've mentioned in other videos that we don't usually do a ton of deep dive into the transcript, but when someone has a 3.0, like, a very low end of the GPAs, I admit low GPAs of people below 3.0 every year, but I don't admit a ton of them. So, is this person special? Let's see. What's the deal with her GPA? She started out fine with B's and B pluses, but she got a C plus in an econ class. Next semester, better, bunch of A minuses, then more B's, A's and B's, one really mixed semester here where she both got an A minus in a seminar, but then got a C plus in geology and a C in Spanish. So she's kind of all over the map here. Here's a withdrawal from an astronomy class. Astronomy is really hard. So I get that. You took a couple pass fails here. Again, science courses, computer science, another astronomy course that she took pass fail. So there's not really any terrible, she's got one C and one C plus. Is that, no, and 2 C pluses. Mostly we're talking B's, B pluses. So this is not, the math works out, so it's not great for her, but it's terrible. Not a terrible record here. She was taking clearly really challenging courses. She was definitely pushing herself, taking a lot of upper level stuff early on. So, and indeed, Smith gave her a 3.07, even though I think the reason LSAC, it worked out to 2.97, I believe, is going to be because of this withdrawal that she took from an astronomy class. I think they count that. They might count that as an F because it looks like she was into the semester when she got the withdrawal. Yeah. So I think I am not really troubled about her academic abilities, even though, that is not the world's greatest GPA. Let's look at her letters of recommendation. Okay, this first letter is from someone who was served in a dean role at Smith and a director of a poli-sci program when this candidate was there. I just realized I have not picked out a name for this candidate. I need to do that. What are we going to call her? I think she's Moira. This is Moira. Okay, so this person was director of the program that Moira was in and was also an academic advisor to her. So, and a thesis advisor. So knows Moira very well. This is an extremely strong letter. Strong intellectual abilities, inextricably linked to her passionate commitment to help others who are struggling in the world. Intellectual curiosity. She engaged complex situations with dogged determination and an ability to stand inside the complexity and tensions rather than fleeing to an oversimplified conclusion for long enough to arrive at a well-reasoned analysis. She was a pleasure to teach. I'm so impressed by and proud of, blah, blah, blah. Deeply committed to helping others. I am confident that her skills and experience will allow her to excel at law school and that she will give back to whatever program is fortunate enough to enroll her. That is an extremely strong letter. That, especially because it's an academic letter, let me just emphasize a couple things. Academic letter that is speaking very highly of her. Obviously, one of the question marks I have is what are her academic abilities? I kind of, wasn't too concerned after looking at the transcript, but having someone really go to bat for her this way, someone who knows her so well, that is really great. And remember, this is like 6 years ago. She graduated 6 years ago before she applied. So that person has remembered her all this time, and that is extremely impressive. Okay, now we have a work letter of rec, and it is certainly very positive. Strongest recommendation, embodies the values of integrity and excellence. So it's very strong, but it is only 4 paragraphs, and it pains me to say this, but Moira is a woman, and this letter writer is misgendering her and saying he. So I'm thinking this is a form letter. So it's still positive, but it doesn't do the work for me that the other one did. Let's move on. Okay, now here's another work recommendation. That first one was president of the company. This person is the director of the marketing group. So her direct boss. Let's take a moment and pause here. Often people are tempted to ask the person with a fancy title, someone who's achieved the most in their world, to write a letter of rec, thinking that that person's achievements will kind of color their own. Not so. Often people who have risen to that level are just very busy people who are self-involved and maybe don't spend the time on a letter that the candidate really deserves. So think about that. This one is much better. Moira's attributes are many. She's an excellent communicator. I rely on her to check the work of our entire marketing team. She's keen attention to detail, her intellect and her personal skills, energy. This person is a great letter. So the damage that was done by the other guy is fine. Not really damage, but I mean, he did not move things forward for her. Okay, now we're at the exciting part, which are the essays. Okay, I was brought up in a family of women, strong, determined women. My grandmother, a strong-willed, quick-witted African-American woman, was born in the early 1940s. So she goes through the story of, and then she moves to her mother, another courageous and brilliant African-American woman, began medical school as a single parent just 1 year after my birth. That is interesting. Now this warning note, I'm liking this story. I want to read this story. This is a really strong beginning, but you want to be careful if you start out by focusing on other people that you are actually the focus of this essay. It's fine to talk about other people, but you don't want it to be an essay about your amazing grandmother and mother, because it needs to be about you and how amazing you are. Although not explicitly, because that will be arrogant, but but she does a great job. So she pivots after starting to talk about how she is the daughter and granddaughter of these strong women, to talk about how she was inspired to, and has been inspired in her life. And it is a very well written essay, and it is more about her personal. It's sort of a story of like her personal journey, how she got here to applying to law school, what of the elements of her life inspired that. And sometimes that can be a boring essay, because it's just like walking us through the resume, which I already read, and so do not need to read in prose form. But she, take my word for it, she does this in a very interesting way. She's pulling out details of her experiences to focus on, and she does this really well. And so she talks about her time at Smith and now her work, and how she has been inspired to go to law school, to work for social change, specifically on behalf of the African American community, and women, and the intersection of those two groups. So it's about 2.5 pages, extremely well written, and very detailed about what she hopes to do with her law degree. And like, it's working for me. Last essay is about why Michigan. So let's see how that goes. This is the one, like, you can do a great job here or do a stinky job here. Stinky jobs are where you just like cut and paste from the website, and great jobs are where you tell me something detailed and specific, that make me think you really know about what the school is and would like to be here. And she talks about, I am thoroughly impressed by the sense of community that she discerns from Michigan law. And she knows it because she is in Ann Arbor. She has visited on a couple of different occasions. She talks about noticing interactions among students and faculty members while she's visiting, just sort of sitting back and watching. She said there was an ease, a sense of respect between them that conveyed to me that they were both there for a common purpose. I really like that. She's also spoken to some alumni, and conveys that. So she's really done her homework, and it is really specific. She said, and she said, I just feel, I get a great feel of the school. After doing all my research, and talking to alumni when I visited, I knew I was home. I was immediately overcome with a feeling of warmth, that it was a place at which I could flourish, that I would be encouraged, challenged, and could evolve. So I really like that. And now I will tell you that this is actually someone who already enrolled. This is an application that's a couple of years old. I remembered it. We've had some requests for one, that I go over, one that has some serious work experience. And I remember this particular candidate, and she gave me permission to use her application. So I did admit her, and she's been an amazing, I'm gonna get teared up. She's been an amazing contributor to our community. I feel really lucky that she enrolled here. It's fun for me to go back now and re-look at the application and remember all the things that jumped out at me when I first looked at it, and think that was right. So, okay, I hope that was useful, and I hope you enjoyed walking through that application with me. And yeah, that is all I have today. Let me take my camera though and show you what's happening in my lap. There we go. He's not really paying attention at all. Let's see. Say hello, Leo. Okay. Have wherever you go blue.